The chandelier's golden light flickered, casting jagged shadows across the marble ballroom
Yes,
of the
I
Grand
can
Palais
hear
in
you
Paris. Anna
perfectly.
Dubois
The
stood at the edge of the
connection
crowd,
is
her
fine.
crimson gown clinging to her frame, her dark eyes scanning the sea of tuxedos and glittering dresses. She was the only black woman in the room, and she felt it. Every glance, every whispered word, every subtle shift of a guest turning away as she approached. Her company, Lumiere Ventures, had clawed its way to the top of the tech world, but tonight, at this exclusive charity gala, she wasn't Anna Dubois, CEO. She was an outsider, a curiosity, a target. The laughter came first, sharp and deliberate, slicing through the hum of polite conversation. It was Edward Reinhardt, patriarch of the Reinhardt dynasty, his silver hair gleaming under the lights as he leaned toward his son, Michael, and muttered something that made the younger man snort. Anna's ears caught the tail end of it. Thinks she belongs here? Michael's eyes flicked to her, his smirk barely concealed, and the small circle of billionaires around them. Old money, European aristocracy, joined in with chuckles that stung like frostbite. Anna's fingers tightened around her champagne flute, but her face remained a mask of calm. She'd learned long ago to bury the rage, to let it simmer until it could be wielded like a blade. She moved toward the group, her heels clicking on the polished floor, each step deliberate, like a chess piece advancing. Edward noticed her approach and raised an eyebrow, his lips curling into a patronizing smile. "Miss Dubois," he said, his voice dripping with false warmth. "How unexpected to see you here. Lumiere Ventures, isn't it? Quite the little startup." The word little landed like a jab, and the group tittered again. Anna's smile didn't waver. "It's an honor to be invited, Mr. Reinhardt," she said, her tone smooth as silk. "Your family's foundation does such visible work." The dig was subtle, but Edward's eyes narrowed. He wasn't used to being challenged, even indirectly. The Reinhardts were untouchable, or so they thought. Their empire, Reinhardt Holdings, spanned real estate, shipping, and private equity, a $1.5 billion juggernaut built on generations of privilege. Tonight, they were hosting this gala to flaunt their philanthropy, but Anna knew the truth. It was a stage for power plays, for deals sealed in hushed corners, for egos to flex. She'd been invited as a token, a nod to diversity, but they hadn't expected her to show up, and they certainly didn't expect her to know their secrets. Anna sipped her champagne, letting the bubbles burn her throat as she scanned the room. Sophia Albrecht, Edward's daughter, stood near the grand staircase, her platinum blonde hair catching the light as she whispered to a man in a tailored suit. Anna recognized him instantly. Julian Voss, a hedge fund titan who'd been circling Lumiere Ventures for months, trying to buy her out. Julian's interest wasn't in partnership. He wanted to gut her company, strip its tech for parts, and leave her with nothing. Anna had refused his offers, and now, it seemed, he'd found allies in the Reinhardts. She set her glass down, her mind racing. Lumiere Ventures wasn't just her livelihood, it was her legacy. Built from a single laptop in a cramped London flat, it had grown into a tech powerhouse, its AI-driven investment platform outpacing every competitor. But the Reinhardts and their ilk saw her as an upstart, a threat to their old world order. Tonight, they'd made it clear. She wasn't welcome in their club, and that laughter, Edward's cruel, calculated laughter, had been the spark that lit something dangerous inside her. Anna slipped through the crowd, her gown trailing like a shadow, and found a quiet alcove near the bar. She pulled out her phone, her fingers flying across the screen as she opened an encrypted app. Her team had been working on something for months, something she'd kept hidden even from her board. Project Eclipse, they called it, a digital weapon, a program capable of unraveling financial empires with a few keystrokes. It was untested, risky, but tonight it felt like fate. She typed a single command: run diagnostics. Her lead engineer, Clara, responded instantly: system ready. Awaiting your call. Anna's heart pounded. She could walk away, play their game, smile through the insults, or she could fight back. Her eyes drifted to Edward, now laughing with Julian Voss, their heads bent close, plotting. She knew what they were planning. a hostile takeover of Lumiere Ventures, backed by Reinhardt money. They thought they could crush her, laugh her out of the room, and take everything she'd built. The gala's music swelled, a string quartet playing Vivaldi, and Anna's gaze hardened. She typed another message to Clara. Prepare eclipse. Target, Reinhardt Holdings. She hit send, her breath catching. There was no turning back now. Project Eclipse wasn't just a program. It was a financial guillotine, designed to exploit weaknesses in corporate structures, to drain accounts, redirect funds, and expose hidden dealings. If it worked, it could cripple the Reinhardts overnight. If it failed, Anna would lose everything. She returned to the ballroom, her composure flawless, and accepted a fresh glass of champagne from a passing waiter. The night wore on, and she played her part, mingling, smiling, deflecting barbs with grace. But beneath it all, her mind was a storm. Clara's updates came in discreet notifications. Accessing Reinhardt servers, firewalls breached, data extraction in progress. Each message was a step closer to retribution, but also to ruin. If the Reinhardts caught wind of this, their lawyers would bury her. If the program glitched, her company would collapse under the fallout. Near midnight, Edward took the stage, his voice booming through the microphone as he thanked the guests for their generosity. His eyes found Anna in the crowd, and he paused, just long enough to let the room notice. "We're here to build a better future," he said, his tone pious. "For those who truly belong." The crowd applauded, but Anna felt the sting of his words. She checked her phone again. Eclipse at 80%. Financial rerouting initiated. Her pulse quickened. The Reinhardt's accounts, billions in assets, were being siphoned, redirected to shell companies, frozen in limbo. By morning, their empire would be teetering. But then, a hand grazed her arm. She turned to find Michael Reinhardt, his boyish face flushed with wine, his eyes glinting with malice. "You're out of your depth, Anna," he said, his voice low. "This world isn't for you. Walk away now, and maybe we'll let you keep your little company." He leaned closer, his breath sour. "Or we'll take it all." Anna's smile was ice. "You're assuming I have something to lose," she said softly. Michael blinked, thrown off. But before he could respond, a commotion erupted near the stage. Sophia, Edward's daughter, was staring at her phone, her face pale. She whispered urgently to her father, who frowned and excused himself from the crowd. Anna's phone buzzed. Eclipse at 95%. Critical systems compromised. She slipped the device into her clutch, her heart a drumbeat. The Reinhardts were starting to feel the first tremors of their downfall. She moved toward the exit, the weight of the night pressing against her chest. The ballroom's opulence felt suffocating now, the laughter and clinking glasses a mockery of the chaos she'd unleashed. As she reached the grand doors, Julian Voss stepped into her path, his smile cold. "Leaving so soon, Miss Dubois?" he asked. "The night's just beginning." Anna met his gaze, unflinching. "For you, Mr. Voss, it's already over." She stepped past him, her heels echoing in the vast hall, and disappeared into the Paris night. Behind her, the Reinhardts were scrambling, unaware that their empire was crumbling, bite by bite, under the weight of her revenge. Rain streaked the windows of Anna Dubois' sleek black car as it sped through the Paris night, the city's lights blurring into streaks of gold and white. Her driver, a stoic man named Pierre, kept his eyes on the road, oblivious to the storm raging in Anna's mind. She sat in the back, her crimson gown now feeling like armor, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. The screen glowed with Clara's latest message. Eclipse at 100%. Reinhardt Holdings financial systems fully compromised. Awaiting your final command. Anna's breath caught, her thumb hovering over the screen. One tap and she'd detonate the Reinhardt's empire. One tap and she'd risk everything, her company, her reputation, her freedom. She closed her eyes, the memory of Edward Reinhardt's laughter still burning in her ears. His smug dismissal, Michael's cruel taunt, Sophia's icy stare. They'd underestimated her, thought her weak, an imposter in their gilded world. But Anna had spent years building Lumiere Ventures from nothing, outsmarting men like them, men who saw her skin, her gender, her lack of pedigree, and assumed she'd crumble. Tonight, she'd prove them wrong. But the cost? Her heart pounded as she imagined the fallout. Investigations, lawsuits, the media tearing her apart. She'd planned for this, but doubt gnawed at her. Was she ready to burn it all down? The car slowed as they approached her hotel, a discreet boutique nestled in the Marais district. Anna slipped her phone into her clutch and stepped out, the rain cold against her skin. She nodded to Pierre, who drove off without a word, and entered the hotel's dimly lit lobby. Upstairs, in her suite, she kicked off her heels and poured a glass of red wine, the liquid dark as blood. She stood by the window, watching the rain lash the city, and opened her laptop. A secure video call was already waiting. Clara's face appeared, her glasses reflecting the blue glow of her own screen. "It's done, Anna," Clara said, her voice low, urgent. "Their accounts are frozen, their offshore holdings rerouted. We've got their emails, their contracts, their dirty little secrets. But we need to move fast. Their IT team's already sniffing around." Anna nodded, her jaw tight. Clara, her closest ally, had been with her since Lumiere's earliest days, coding late into the night in that cramped London flat. She trusted Clara with her life, but this was bigger than either of them had ever dared. "What's the exposure?" Anna asked, her voice steady despite the fear curling in her chest. Clara hesitated. "If they trace it back to us, we're done. The program's clean, untraceable so far, but the Reinhardts have deep pockets. They'll hire the best to hunt us down." Anna sipped her wine, the taste bitter now. She'd known the risks when she'd greenlit Project Eclipse, but hearing it aloud made her stomach twist. "And if we release the data?" she asked. Clara's eyes widened. "It'll destroy them. Their investors will pull out, their partners will scatter, their reputation will be ash. But Anna, it'll shine a spotlight on us too. Are you sure?" Anna didn't answer right away. She turned back to the window, the city's silhouette jagged against the stormy sky. She thought of her mother, a seamstress in a small Belgian town, who'd worked her fingers raw to send Anna to university. She thought of the professors who'd doubted her, the investors who'd sneered, the boardrooms where she'd been the only one like her. And she thought of Edward Reinhardt's laugh, the sound that had pushed her to this edge. "Do it," she said finally, her voice like steel. "Leak it all." Clara nodded, her fingers already flying across her keyboard. Anna ended the call and sank into a chair, her mind racing. The data, decades of Reinhardt Holdings' shady deals, tax evasions, and backroom bribes, would hit the press by morning. She'd chosen anonymous channels, whistleblower sites, and a few trusted journalists who'd been itching to take down the Reinhardts. But anonymity wasn't guaranteed, not in a world where money bought loyalty and truth. Her phone buzzed again. Not Clara this time, but an unknown number. She frowned, hesitated, then answered. "Miss Du Bois," a smooth voice said, unmistakably Julian Voss. "You've been busy tonight." Anna's blood ran cold. How did he know? She forced her voice to stay calm. "It's late, Mr. Voss. What do you want?" He chuckled, the sound low and dangerous. "You think you're clever, don't you? Playing with fire. But you don't know the Reinhardts like I do. They don't forgive, and they don't forget." Anna's grip tightened on the phone. "Is that a threat?" she asked, her tone icy. Julian's voice hardened. "It's a warning. Walk away now, or you'll regret it." The line went dead. Anna stared at the phone, her pulse racing. Julian knew something. Maybe not everything, but enough to make her uneasy. Had Eclipse left a trace? Had someone betrayed her? She pushed the thought aside. She couldn't afford to second-guess now. She opened her laptop again, pulling up a live feed of Reinhardt Holdings' stock market activity. Even at this hour, the numbers were shifting, a subtle dip that would become a freefall once the leaks hit. She imagined Edward in his mansion, oblivious, sipping brandy with his cronies. She imagined Sophia, scrolling through her phone, seeing the first headlines. She imagined Michael, his smug grin fading as his world unraveled. The thought brought a flicker of satisfaction, but it was fleeting. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about survival. A knock at the door startled her. She froze, her hand instinctively reaching for the letter opener on the desk. "Who is it?" she called, her voice sharp. "Room service," came the reply, a young woman's voice, accented and nervous. Anna didn't move. She hadn't ordered anything. She crept to the door, her heart pounding, and peered through the peephole. A girl in a hotel uniform stood there, holding a tray with a single envelope. Anna opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. "Who sent this?" she asked. The girl shook her head. "A man downstairs. He didn't give a name." Anna took the envelope, her fingers brushing the crisp paper. She shut the door, locked it, and tore it open. Inside was a single sheet, handwritten in elegant script. "You've made a dangerous enemy, Miss Du Bois. Stop now or you'll lose more than your company." No signature, but the message was clear. The Reinhardts or Julian were watching her. She burned the note in the sink, the flames curling the paper to ash, and poured another glass of wine. Her hands trembled, but her resolve didn't waver. She checked her phone again. Clara's message. Leaks deployed. First articles dropping in 2 hours. Anna exhaled, the weight of her decision settling like a stone. The Reinhardts would wake to chaos, their empire bleeding out in headlines and plummeting stocks. But Julian's call, that note, they meant she wasn't safe. Not here, not now. She grabbed her coat, slipped her laptop into a bag, and called Pierre. "I need to leave," she said when he answered. "Now." As the car pulled away from the hotel, Anna looked back at the glowing windows, half expecting to see a shadow watching her. The rain was heavier now, the streets slick and dark. She didn't know where she was going yet. Clara's safe house in Brussels, maybe, or a flight to London. But one thing was certain, the Reinhardts would come for her. And when they did, she'd be ready. The rain battered the windshield as Anna's car sliced through the pre-dawn streets of Brussels, the city still half asleep under a shroud of gray. She sat in the back, her eyes fixed on the laptop screen, where headlines were already breaking like cracks in a dam. Reinhardt Holdings embroiled in financial scandal. Offshore accounts exposed. Billionaire's secrets laid bare. Reinhardt empire faces collapse. Each article was a dagger, and Anna had thrown every one of them. Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Clara, confirming the leaks had gone viral. Journalists, begging for comments. Her board, panicking about the fallout. She silenced it, her fingers cold against the glass. She'd done what she set out to do, but the weight of it pressed harder now, like a noose tightening. Pierre navigated the narrow streets, his face unreadable in the rearview mirror. Anna trusted him. He'd been with her for years, a quiet man who asked no questions. But tonight, every shadow felt like a threat. Julian Voss's voice echoed in her mind, his warning sharp as a blade. They don't forgive and they don't forget. And that note, slipped under her hotel door in Paris, burned into her memory. Someone was watching her, someone close enough to know her moves. She glanced out the window, half expecting to see headlights trailing them. The streets were empty, but her pulse raced. They pulled up to a nondescript townhouse in a quiet Brussels suburb, Clara's safe house. Anna stepped out, the rain soaking her coat, and rang the bell. Clara opened the door, her face pale, her glasses fogged from the warmth inside. "You're here," she said, pulling Anna in. The house smelled of coffee and old books, a stark contrast to the sterile luxury of the Paris hotel. Clara locked the door behind them, her hands shaking slightly. "It's everywhere, Anna. The leaks, they're trending worldwide. Reinhardt Holdings stock is down 30% already." Anna nodded, shedding her coat and sinking into a worn armchair. "Any trace back to us?" she asked, her voice low. Clara hesitated, her fingers twisting together. "Not yet. Eclipse is clean, but their IT team is digging. They've hired Blackthorn Security, best in the business. If there's even a crumb, they'll find it." Anna's stomach twisted. Blackthorn was infamous, a shadowy firm that didn't just trace hacks, they hunted people. She'd known the Reinhardts would fight back, But this was faster, more vicious than she'd expected. Clara handed her a tablet, its screen glowing with a live feed of news channels. Edward Reinhardt's face filled one, his jaw tight as he addressed reporters outside his London office. "These allegations are baseless," he said. His voice clipped, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of fear. "Reinhardt Holdings will weather this storm, as we always have." Anna almost smiled. He was posturing, but the cracks were showing. Sophia appeared next, her blonde hair pulled back, her face a mask of fury as she dodged questions. Michael was nowhere to be seen. Probably holed up somewhere, scrambling to save his inheritance. Anna handed the tablet back. "What's our next move?" Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Anna leaned forward, her mind racing. Project Eclipse had done its job. Exposed the Reinhardt's corruption, frozen their assets, and tanked their stock. But it wasn't enough. They'd come for her now, and she needed to stay one step ahead. "We double down," she said. "Release the secondary files, the ones on their real estate scams. And we need to move Eclipse's servers. Somewhere they can't reach." Clara's eyes widened. "That's risky. The secondary files will hit their partners too. We'll make more enemies." Anna met her gaze, unflinching. "We're already in too deep. If we stop now, they'll bury us." Clara nodded, though her face was tight with worry. She disappeared into the next room, her laptop already open, her fingers flying to execute Anna's orders. Alone, Anna poured a glass of water from a pitcher on the table, her hands steadier now. She'd crossed a line in Paris, and there was no going back. But doubt crept in, cold and insidious. Had she moved too fast? Had she underestimated the Reinhardt's reach? Julian Voss's call haunted her. He'd known something, but how much? And who had sent that note? She paced the small living room, the floorboards creaking under her steps, and stopped at a window. The street outside was quiet, the rain slowing to a drizzle, but she couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on her. Her phone buzzed again. An encrypted message, not from Clara but from an unknown source. "You can't hide, Anna. We know what you did." Her breath caught, her fingers trembling as she typed a reply. "Who is this?" No response came. She forwarded the message to Clara, who was back now, her face grim. "We've got a problem," Clara said, holding up her laptop. "Someone's trying to ping Eclipse's servers. Not Blackthorn, someone else. They're good, Anna. Too good." Anna's heart sank. A second player, someone outside the Reinhardt's orbit? Or a traitor inside her own circle? She thought of her team, Clara, Pierre, a handful of engineers back in London. They were loyal, weren't they? But money could turn anyone, and the Reinhardts had plenty. "Lock it down," she told Clara. "Move the servers to the backup in Amsterdam. Now." Clara nodded and vanished again, leaving Anna alone with her thoughts. She sank back into the armchair, her mind replaying the gala. Edward's laughter, Michael's taunt, Sophia's cold stare. They'd pushed her to this. But Julian Voss's warning felt different, personal. Had he been working with the Reinhardts all along, or was he playing his own game? She opened her laptop, pulling up a file on Voss. His hedge fund, Voss Capital, had been sniffing around Lumiere Ventures for months, but there was more: whispers of ties to organized crime, shell companies in Cyprus, a reputation for ruthlessness. If he was involved, the stakes were even higher. A sharp knock at the door jolted her. Clara froze in the next room, her eyes meeting Anna's. "Were you expecting anyone?" Clara whispered. Anna shook her head, her hand reaching for the letter opener on the table. She crept to the door, her pulse pounding, and peered through the peephole. A man stood there, tall, in a dark coat, his face obscured by a hood. He knocked again, harder. "Miss Du Bois," he called, his voice low, accented. "We need to talk." Anna's grip tightened on the letter opener. "Who are you?" she demanded, keeping the chain on. The man lifted his head, revealing sharp features and pale eyes. "A friend," he said. "Or an enemy. Your choice." He held up a flash drive, small and silver, glinting in the dim light. "This is about the Reinhardts. And you." Anna's heart raced. She didn't know this man, but his presence, his knowledge, meant the game had just changed. She glanced at Clara, who shook her head, her eyes wide with fear. Anna took a breath, her mind splitting between caution and curiosity. She unlatched the chain, opened the door, and stepped back, the letter opener hidden in her sleeve. The man stepped inside, the rain dripping from his coat, and the air grew heavy with secrets. The man stood dripping in Clara's safe house, his pale eyes locked on Anna as the door clicked shut behind him. Rainwater pooled at his feet, staining the worn rug, and the air in the small Brussels townhouse grew thick with tension. Anna's grip on the letter opener tightened, its blade concealed in her sleeve, ready to strike if needed. Clara stood frozen in the doorway to the next room, her laptop clutched like a shield, her breath shallow. The stranger held the flash drive between his fingers, its silver surface catching the dim light like a taunt. "You're a hard woman to find, Miss Du Bois," he said, his voice smooth but edged, his accent faintly German. "But not impossible." Anna's heart thudded, but she kept her face unreadable, her voice steady. "You've got 10 seconds to tell me who you are and what you want." The man's lips twitched, not quite a smile, and he tossed the flash drive onto the table between them. It landed with a soft clink, a small thing carrying the weight of a bomb. "My name's Lucas Weber," he said. "I work for people who don't like the Reinhardts any more than you do. That drive? Is your insurance or your noose? Depends on how you play it." Anna didn't touch the drive. Her eyes flicked to Clara, who gave a slight nod, already moving to plug it into a sandbox laptop, one they used for untrusted files. Anna's mind raced. Lucas Weber. She didn't know the name, but his confidence, his ease in finding her, screamed danger. Was he Blackthorn Security? A Reinhardt enforcer? Or someone else entirely? A new player in this deadly game? Julian Voss's warning echoed in her head. They don't forgive, and they don't forget. And now this man, standing in her safe house, claiming to be a friend. She didn't trust him, not for a second. "Talk," Anna said, her voice like ice. Lucas leaned against the wall, casual but alert, his coat still dripping. "The Reinhardts are crumbling," he said. "Your little stunt with Project Eclipse? Brilliant. Their stocks are in freefall. Their investors are jumping ship, and Edward's sweating through his tailored suits. But you've stirred a hornet's nest. They're not just coming for you. They're coming for everyone you care about." He glanced at Clara, who flinched under his gaze. Anna stepped forward, closing the distance between them, her eyes blazing. "If you're threatening me, you've picked the wrong night." Lucas raised his hands, palms out. "Not a threat. A fact. The Reinhardts have called in every favor they've got. Blackthorn, private investigators, even some less savory types. They know Eclipse came from Lumiere Ventures. They don't have proof yet, but they're close. That drive," he nodded toward the table, "has evidence that could bury them for good, or it could bury you. Your call." Clara's laptop beeped, and she looked up, her face pale. "It's clean," she said. "No malware, no trackers. Just files, hundreds of them. Emails, contracts, recordings. It's a goldmine." Anna's pulse quickened. She moved to the laptop, keeping Lucas in her peripheral vision. The screen showed a folder labeled Reinhardt Collapse. She opened a file at random, a recorded conversation between Edward Reinhardt and a Swiss banker, discussing illegal transfers to a shell company in the Caymans. Another file detailed bribes to European regulators, signed by Sophia herself. A third was a video, grainy but clear, of Michael meeting with a known arms dealer in a Munich hotel. Anna's breath caught. This wasn't just dirt, it was dynamite. "Where did you get this?" she asked, turning to Lucas. He shrugged, his eyes unreadable. "Let's just say the Reinhardts have enemies who've been watching them longer than you have. My employers want them gone, same as you. But they're not altruists. They want a piece of the pie when the empire falls." Anna's jaw tightened. So that's what this was, a power grab. Lucas wasn't here to help her. He was here to use her. But the drive, it changed everything. With this, she could finish what she'd started, expose every corner of the Reinhardt's corruption. or she could overplay her hand and lose it all. She turned to Clara. Can we verify this? Make sure it's not a trap. Clara nodded, already typing. It'll take time, but I can cross-check the data against what we pulled from Eclipse. If it's real, we've got enough to sink them for good. Anna looked back at Lucas, who watched her with a predator's patience. Why me? She asked. Why not leak this yourself? He smiled now, a thin, dangerous curve. Because you're the one they're afraid of, Anna. You're the one who got inside their heads. And my employers? They like a good story. The black CEO who took down a dynasty. It's got a certain ring to it. Anna's stomach twisted. She didn't trust Lucas, didn't trust his employers. But the drive was too tempting. It could end the Reinhardts, but it could also expose her to whoever was pulling Lucas's strings. She needed time to think, to plan, but time was slipping away. Her phone buzzed. A news alert. Reinhardt Holdings files emergency injunction against anonymous leaks. Edward was fighting back, trying to claw his way out of the mess she'd made. She glanced at Clara, who was still digging through the drive's files, her brow furrowed. There's something else here, Clara said suddenly. A folder marked Lumiere. It's about you. Anna's blood ran cold. She opened the folder, her fingers trembling. Documents, photos, emails, her life laid bare. Bank records from her early days. A photo of her mother's house in Belgium. Even a transcript of a call she'd had with Clara 2 weeks ago. Someone had been watching her, tracking her every move. She turned to Lucas, her voice low, dangerous. Did you know about this? He met her gaze, unflinching. I told you, Anna. You're in deep. My employers know everything. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Before she could answer, a crash came from the back of the house, a window shattering. Clara gasped, dropping her laptop. Anna spun, the letter opener now in her hand, her heart pounding. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, echoed from the hallway. Lucas's face hardened, his hands slipping inside his coat, pulling out a small pistol. Stay behind me, he said, his voice calm but urgent. Anna grabbed Clara, pulling her toward the kitchen, her mind racing. The Reinhardts? Blackthorn? Or Lucas's mysterious employers? Tying up loose ends? She didn't know, but one thing was clear. The safe house wasn't safe anymore. They ducked behind the kitchen counter as the footsteps grew louder. Anna's phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. You were warned. Her breath hitched. The drive, the leaks, Lucas, it was all converging, a trap closing around her. She glanced at Clara, whose eyes were wide with fear, and then at Lucas, who crouched near the doorway, his gun ready. The footsteps stopped, and a voice called out, cold and familiar. Anna Dubois, come out now or we start shooting. It was Michael Reinhardt. Anna's heart sank, but her resolve hardened. She'd brought down his family's empire, and now he was here in the flesh to make her pay. She gripped the letter opener, her mind racing for a way out. The drive lay on the table, its secrets her only leverage. She wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. Michael Reinhardt's voice cut through the tense air of the Brussels safe house, sharp and venomous, like a blade scraping stone. Anna crouched behind the kitchen counter, her fingers tight around the letter opener, its dull edge a pathetic weapon against the danger closing in. Clara's breath was ragged beside her, her eyes wide with terror, while Lucas Weber stood near the doorway, his pistol raised, his pale eyes scanning the shadows. The shattered window at the back of the house still dripped with rain, the storm outside a low growl that matched the storm in Anna's chest. Michael's footsteps echoed closer, deliberate, taunting. You thought you could ruin us, Anna? He called, his voice thick with rage. You're nothing, a nobody who got lucky, and now you're finished. Anna's heart pounded, but her mind was a steel trap, calculating, refusing to break. The flash drive on the table, Lucas's so-called gift, held the final pieces of the Reinhardt Empire's destruction, but also her own exposure. Someone had been watching her, documenting her life, her plans, her vulnerabilities. Michael's presence here, in this obscure townhouse, meant the Reinhardts had found her faster than she'd feared. Blackthorn Security, Julian Voss, or Lucas's mysterious employers. Someone had betrayed her, and now the walls were closing in. Lucas motioned for her to stay low, his gun steady as he peered into the hallway. "He's not alone," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Two others, maybe three, armed." Anna nodded, her throat tight. She glanced at Clara, who was clutching her phone, her fingers trembling as she typed a desperate message to their team in Amsterdam. "Servers secure. Backup ready. Get out now." Anna grabbed Clara's arm, pulling her toward the back door, but a gunshot cracked through the house, splintering the wooden frame above them. Clara screamed, and Anna yanked her down, her own pulse roaring in her ears. "Stay down," Lucas hissed, returning fire into the hallway. The shots were deafening, the air thick with the smell of gunpowder. Anna's mind raced. She needed a way out, a way to turn this around. The flash drive was her leverage, but Michael was here to kill, not negotiate. She crawled toward the table, her gown snagging on the floor, and grabbed the drive, slipping it into her pocket. Lucas glanced back, his eyes narrowing. "Don't do anything stupid," he warned, but Anna ignored him. She wasn't going to die cowering in a kitchen. Michael's voice came again, closer now, mocking. "You're out of moves, Anna. Your little program's done its damage, but it ends tonight. You, your company, your pathetic crusade, all gone." Another shot rang out, this one grazing the counter, sending splinters flying. Clara whimpered, and Anna squeezed her hand, her voice low but fierce. "We're not done yet. Stay with me." She looked around, her eyes landing on a gas canister by the stove, a relic of the old house. An idea sparked, reckless but possible. "Lucas," Anna whispered, her voice urgent. "Cover me." He frowned but nodded, firing another round into the hallway. Anna moved fast, dragging the canister to the stove and twisting the valve. The hiss of gas filled the air, sharp and acrid. She grabbed a lighter from a drawer, her hands steady despite the chaos. "Clara, when I say go, run for the back door." Clara's eyes widened, but she nodded, trusting Anna implicitly. Michael's footsteps were in the living room now, his shadow looming in the doorway. "Last chance, Anna," he called. "Come out, and maybe I'll make it quick." Anna's jaw clenched. She flicked the lighter, the flame small but bright, and held it near the gas. "Lucas now," she shouted. Lucas fired a barrage, forcing Michael and his men to duck. Anna tossed the lighter toward the stove and sprinted, pulling Clara with her. The explosion was immediate, a roar of fire and heat that shook the house, shattering windows and sending debris flying. They burst through the back door into the rain-soaked alley, Lucas close behind, his gun still raised. The safe house was ablaze, flames licking the night sky, screams echoing from inside. Anna didn't look back. She couldn't afford to. She dragged Clara down the alley, her heart pounding, the flash drive heavy in her pocket. Lucas caught up, his face grim. "That was insane," he said, his voice tight. "But they're not dead. Not yet." Anna didn't respond. She led them through the winding streets, the rain masking their footsteps, until they reached a parked car, Pierre, waiting as instructed. They piled in, and Pierre floored it, the tires screeching on the wet pavement. Anna's phone buzzed, a message from Clara's team. "Secondary leaks deployed. Reinhardt real estate scams live." Anna exhaled, the weight of it all crashing down. The world would wake to another wave of headlines, the Reinhardt's empire reduced to ashes. But Michael's survival meant this wasn't over. As the car sped toward the Dutch border, Anna opened her laptop, plugging in the flash drive. The files loaded, a treasure trove of ruin, proof of the Reinhardt's crimes, but also that damning folder labeled Lumiere. She opened it, her breath catching. Photos of her meeting with investors, recordings of her calls, even a map of her mother's house in Belgium. And then, a single email, sent from an anonymous account to Julian Voss. "She's planning something big. Stop her." The date was a month ago. Someone had been feeding Voss information, someone close. Anna's eyes flicked to Clara, who was staring out the window, her face pale. Then to Lucas, his expression unreadable. Pierre drove in silence, his loyalty unquestioned. Or was it? Doubt gnawed at her, but she pushed it down. She forwarded the files to her team, adding a single instruction. Verify and release. No delays. The Reinhardts were wounded but not dead. She needed to finish them before they regrouped. The car crossed into the Netherlands, the rain easing as dawn broke, painting the sky a bruised purple. Anna leaned back, the flash drive still in her hand. Lucas spoke, his voice low. You've won, Anna. The Reinhardts are done. But you've made enemies you don't even know yet. She met his gaze, her eyes hard. Let them come, she said. I'm not afraid. The car sped on, Amsterdam's lights glowing in the distance. Anna's empire was intact, her enemies in ruins, but the cost was clear. She'd torn down a dynasty, but the shadows around her were growing. Someone had betrayed her, and they were still out there. The fight was over, but the war had just begun.